Alright everyone, welcome back to our playthrough of Final Fantasy VI. We are now at part 9, and we had just acquired the airship in Setzer, and we decided to approach the town of Vector overnight, and we landed right outside the town of Albrook. So we go into Albrook, and first things first, we're going to see if anything needs to be replenished, and I think for the most part we're good, although you always want to make sure you got some tents here. And just looking around, really nothing to see in here. So the town of Albrook has some stuff you can take a look at in terms of, as I said, weapons and items and defensive armory. So buy whatever you can afford. And in this case, it looks like for right now, I think we're pretty good. If you have Shadow in your party at this point, it's not a bad idea to, go ahead and bulk yourself up on all those little skeins. But we don't, so we're not really worried about it. Also, make sure that all of your party members actually have stuff equipped. So you're going to see here I didn't equip Celeste, and that may come back to bite me in a minute if I don't do it right now. So you notice that guy was talking about something called Atma Weapon, and we will learn more about Atma Weapon towards the end of the first half of this game. Not really a big deal right now. Armor shop, we got 2 empty chests, so nothing to really worry about here. And right here, once again, nothing to really worry about. I guess you could buy a couple things here if you really need them. I think for the most part we're pretty good, so we're just going to go ahead and get the heck out of here. Going to equip Celeste. This is where I really noticed that Celeste didn't really have much, so that's why I went ahead and did it right there. Alright, now I think for the most part we're good to go. It doesn't hurt to check to make sure everyone has optimum equipment, and I think for the most part we're good. Maybe we'll buy a bard's hat, but I think we're good otherwise. So it's time to get out of here. Right about now. Go ahead and equip whatever you need to, and yes, there we go. We're officially all set. Let's get out of here. And other than that, there's really not too much else to do in this town, at least at the moment. So we're going to go ahead and leave this section. Maybe explore one more shop in this area here. For the most part, that's pretty much it. So we can go back in and confirm that we have everything that we need. We are going to buy the Epee, or the EP. I don't know how you actually pronounce that thing. Now notice when we did that, that is a sword for Celeste, right? That only does maximum damage from the front row. So we are going to have to put her back in the front, say goodbye to our defensive bonus buff there. Alright, now unfortunately we can't go down to the southern part there because the Empire is blocking us off. You do have the opportunity to buy some relics here. A very, very good one to have is the Wall Ring, which will reflect any magic, except for area of attack magic, which is like, high-end stuff like Merton, Meteor, Flare, Quake, that kind of stuff. You can't reflect those spells, but single attacks that can be targeted to an individual user or all at the same time, if you have the option, those can be reflected with the Wall Ring. Now, right about now, you don't really need it, plus it's really expensive, not to mention, so it's not really required. So we're just going to go ahead and ignore that. You can go ahead and get some things out of the barrels here if it's absolutely necessary. There's really not anything to speak of here. We're going to go ahead and spend a little of our hard-earned GP to rest. Now, a little bit later in the game, you will want to come back and do this because there is an interesting cutscene you can get with Locke and Celeste. Not really an option right now, so we're just going to bypass that. We're going to leave this section, and we're pretty much going to leave this town. So we're going to head back out the way we came. And we are going to start making our trek all the way to the Imperial capital of Vector. Now, on the way there, you will notice that there are some other towns that we can possibly go to, and we'll point those out when we get to them. You're going to see some enemies you haven't seen before. The first one here is this chicken lip, or a cockatrice, basically. A lot of times, these enemy types have the ability to turn you to stone, and that's not a good thing if you don't have an item to cure the stone status effect. Fortunately, these things are pushovers, and they can all be taken out with a fire dance, as long as it's powered up, which unfortunately it's not. Fire dance for the most part will do it. If it's not, just go ahead and hit over top of it with Edgar's flash attack, and that should be more than enough to take these enemies out here. Locke, of course, can steal, but there's really nothing worth looking at here. Honestly, don't know why we're using the drill. Just go ahead and use the fire dance and the flash combined, and that should be more than enough to take these enemies out in about 2 shots here. And I believe it is. Let's make sure and confirm. And it still wasn't enough. Well, anyway, you get the point here. So if we ever run across more of these enemies, we're just going to bypass and skip right through them. until we get to the next section. No, now here's that Quake spell. This is a nasty attack. It's a nasty magic attack. Earth-based, hits anybody that does not have float equipped. And that just, you can see, dang near took out the entire party here, minus Sabin, I believe. We do want to go ahead and we're going to use a tent to bring the party back to full health and life. Honestly, what we probably should have done is just gone back into the town and saved ourselves the tent, because those tents are very useful in a little bit. So we're going to continue on, and to get to Vector, you need to head to the middle part of this capital, middle part of this continent, rather. So we're going to head up, back over to the left, and eventually we'll come to the Imperial City here. Now we're going to have a Ralph and Joker. These things aren't too tough. Just hit them hard, hit them fast, like anything else you're going to fight. So we'll go ahead and take them down, and we will reconvene when we get to the capital city of Vector here. Alright, so you probably noticed instead of heading to the center of the continent, we went north, took a little detour. We're going to show you a town that you normally wouldn't go to if you were playing a straight walkthrough. So this is the town of Zen. And Zen will have more significance later in the game, in the second half. But right now, just to kind of show you, take a detour. It's a town, you can buy stuff, whoop-de-doo. The big thing here right now is that the town is under Imperial control. So what does that mean? Well, really nothing much for right now. So honestly, you can buy the exact same stuff in terms of weapons, items, defensive stuff. It's nothing you haven't seen before. Just gives you another chance to buy something. Well, I guess you could buy the boomerang, which is the same thing that Locke currently has equipped with the full moon. You can still attack the same damage from the back row. It just hits a tiny bit harder. So I guess if you have some extra GP to spend, you could come to Zen, and we do, so that's what we're going to do. But you don't really have to come here if you don't really feel like it. So now that we've done that, gotten that out of the way, what we're doing right now is just selling off stuff that we don't necessarily need to get some more GP. So we don't really need any of these back row items. I guess we could get rid of them, and we will. Now that Celeste has her sword, her foil sword basically, yeah, it hits a lot harder anyway, so we can say goodbye to those things. We got a little bit more GP. We're going to go ahead and arrange and filter stuff, and we're going to leave. And we're going to leave this town, and we're going to finally head back down to Vector here, just to show you there's really nothing up here. As I said, there will come a time where it is necessary to be here, but right now, just a little detour, show you what we got. Alright, everything looks to be good. Right about now, we are just making sure that we have the right espers equipped to the right people, and right now we only have 4 espers, so you don't really have much of a choice. Now, we will notice that Celeste does not have an esper equipped, so clearly we want to do that. Alright, so now we're going to head down south to the center dot on this continent, finally, and we're going to hit Vector. Vector's going to have some interesting stuff in here. It's basically a mini town with a fighting section. The town is nothing you haven't seen before. There are some things to be aware of, things you want to avoid before you actually just go into the town and talking to people and agreeing to pay for stuff here. So we will talk about that fairly shortly here once we dispose of these 2 Ruckus Ralphs. And that is a nice little attack that Locke has with that boomerang. I've always loved that attack with him. So let's go ahead and cure. And you're going to see we're in really good shape right now. Alright, just going to go ahead and wrap up this fight. Rufus Ralphus should burn. Man, that one is really tough. Just doesn't want to do as it's told right now. Let's go ahead and Jason Voorhees that thing. There we go. Right, and that's what we like to see. Let's continue heading on south. And I think Vector should be coming up right about now, if not after one more fight. And yep, one more fight should do it. Give a couple of Ralphs. Employ the same old stuff we did the last time. Take them down really, really fast. So as we get into Vector here, as I said, this is going to be a pivotal point for the early part of this game. It's going to involve some challenge that we haven't really had yet. And really, the first part of it isn't too tough, but the thing that makes it really tough overall is that there are multiple boss fights. Once you commit to going into Vector, you're going to have 3 boss fights that you're going to have to complete before you get free reign and back in control of the game, back on the overworld map again. So be ready, be prepared, because I'll tell you right now, I was not. So you're about to be in for some interesting stuff here. It's on the house, have a snooze. No, let's not have a snooze, because I'll tell you, if you agree to have a snooze for free on the house, they will take 1,500 GP from you overnight while you are taking that snooze. So no, don't do it. Don't go in that little mini small house, because you will be forced into a fight if you don't agree that you like the Emperor. So don't do that. Yeah, nothing you haven't really seen here. It's the same weapons, same items, same defensive armory. So nothing we haven't already known about. These people seem to not like Celeste very much. Yeah, as I said, nothing we haven't seen already. I'm going to go ahead and bounce out of here. So yeah, as I was saying, this Imperial Capital, in order to complete it, has 3 boss fights, and they are essentially back to back to back. And some of them are easy, some of them are not. Wait till you see some of these things. And talking about General Leo, and we haven't heard his name since we saw that Imperial Desert Camp. Yeah, this is something you want to take a look at too. So we got forced into a fight here because we talked to one of the soldiers. Don't do that. The moment that a soldier or a bad guy basically notices you, and that was useful, we just stole a tent. Those things are really handy to have right now. As I was saying, the moment that one of these bad guys or Imperial soldiers runs into you, they will get into a fight, and you will be forced back to the beginning of Vector here. Which doesn't sound like a big deal, it's just kind of more annoying than anything else. Yeah, by the way, if you're going to steal, don't steal from the same person more than once. You can't do it. So we'll take down these last 2 enemies here, we will continue on north, and we will finally see what we have in store for us, or what the game has in store for us, when we get into the more difficult section of this town. Alright, looks like just one more little commando to take out. Of course, doesn't have anything. Alright, let's get this thing down quickly, and then I think we are just about ready to move along here. This thing is taking a lot of hits. Still won't go down. Come on. Nothing like a good old suplex to finish him off. Come on, just gotta do it. Finally, a nice 500. Alright, nothing useful out of there. Edgar does learn the fire spell, though. Alright, now as I said, you get into any fights here, you get pushed back to the beginning of this part of the town, Vector. So, that's where you want to go on the far right, but again, you can't go there because that's going to cause a fight. So instead, talk to this guy, and what he's going to do is cause you a distraction, and then you can move along. He's going to pretend he's going to be sick and throw up. Now, honestly, what I want to point out here, before you move into this section here, you want to make sure that you have a lot of curative items at your disposal and in your stock. What you should have is a good stash of potions, possibly a few tents as well. I made a critical mistake going into this section of the game without an appropriate stash of stuff, and you're going to see why it's going to come back to bite me toward midway point of this section here. Wait till you see what's coming up. It does get kind of dicey at times. And we're just making sure that we are fully healed, because we're going to need it in about 1, 2, 3. Here we are in the Magitech Factory. I always love the catchy theme music to this part. Alright, so the Magitech Factory has some pipe mazes that you can walk around and try to find and explore. And really, it doesn't make too much of a difference where you go. As long as you make the efforts to explore every last section, there are some nice treasures and weapons and restorative items and armor to find here. So try to explore every place that you can. Get this place in the first on the left here. This gives you the Flame Saber, which obviously will be very useful for enemies that are weak to fire. It's equivalent to the Thunderblade and the Blizzard eventually whenever you acquire that sword. So these are all equivalent weapons that just have elemental strengths attached to them. So once you get that weapon, you're going to take this crane moving back and forth and take it all the way to the right. And you notice there's a couple ways you can get there. Now, also, don't do what I just did. If you take the one over to the right, you'll get that chest there. I decided not to get it, and honestly, it's not that big of a deal. But instead, we get an X potion here. Very good for refilling health. And you're going to see there's no way you can go up there, so forget about that. And unfortunately, you can't go back up that pipe, so you're going to have to continue onward to the right. And we're just going to keep on taking out enemies here until we get to the next section. And keep on fighting. As I said, this can be a pretty difficult section of the game, because I know we haven't really gotten to this point yet, but here's the reason you want to make sure that you have a ton of tents and potions and stuff like that. You will have no less than 3 boss fights. Yeah, 3 boss fights before you get another opportunity to have free roam of the world. So be careful and take this seriously. If you're doing a no-death run like I am and you don't go in prepared, you're asking for trouble. And sure enough, yeah, I am asking for trouble because that's the last thing I did. I did not come properly prepared. And we'll see how successful I am with this. I really don't know. This could be a big mega disaster here. Alright, now this is huge. Sabin just learned Cure, and that's enormous because right now Celeste was the only one that had access to Cure other than Terra. And there's the Thunder Blade. That's very equivalent to Flame Saber, with the only exception is that it makes more damage to people who are weak to Bolt. Remedies are always nice. So yeah, make sure you have all the curative items and tents. I cannot stress that enough. Alright, we're moving along down, and you could continue over to the right, but we're going to go up these steps here, and we're going to look for any extra additional hidden chests here. These pipsqueaks are pretty easy to take out. Usually a fire dance from Sabin is enough, and then you can pick them off with other attacks here. Really nothing useful, so just take them out with fire dance. And we're just going to see what happens here. Keep on moving, keep on hitting. As I said, try to get every treasure that you can. Boom. All those pipsqueaks are gone. They're nothing but pipsqueaks. So yeah, Sabin's got the Cure spell right now. And ideally, you would want to put the Cure spell on somebody other than Sabin, since he is one of your primary hitters. It probably would have been better and smarter if we had given the Cure spell to Locke. But alas, it is what it is. But the most important thing to note is that we now have another character who is able to cure now. And that is extremely critical in the event that one of our healers goes down. We find ourselves in a critical situation. So right about now, we're just going to continue on doing what we got to do, take these enemies out, and we are about to encounter another chest here with a very, very valuable item that can come in handy and possibly win you some matches and boss fights that you wouldn't have expected here. Get your hero out of dodge and do some nice heavy damage here at unexpected moments. You're about to see what that is once these stupid little Garms go down. I think one more fire dance ought to do it, or an aura bolt or two. Depends what we manage to pull out here. I think this drill is just about going to do it. Drill him right in the face. Let's see what we get here. Sabin learns the Antidote spell. Okay, here comes that chest right over here in the bottom left. Dragoon Boots. Alright, so anyone who's played Final Fantasy IV knows exactly what the Dragoon Boots are all about. The character Kain was able to jump right up in the air and then fall straight down on the opponent and do massive damage. And the Dragoon Boots do the same thing. Whoever you decide to equip them on, that's exactly what's going to happen. So what I would say is equip them on somebody who is not necessarily a magic user, maybe someone who's a utility person that could benefit from it. So they can be your dark horse essentially. Whoever you decide to put them on, they can get you out of harm's way. Go ahead and stick it on someone like, I don't know, Locke, Edgar, Cyan, another kind of support hero, maybe even Terra for all I know. It really just depends on who you have, what you need. Now that's cool. We stole Mithril Mail from one of these proto-armors here. By the way, proto-armors are no joke. They deal massive damage with their tech lasers, so don't be afraid, don't feel bad if you gotta run away from these things. I very rarely will fight them at this stage. They do pretty significant damage even in the back row, so we're gonna run away here. We will equip the Dragoon Boots to Locke, I believe, in case we haven't already done so. So we are going to continue to go, go, go. And through the door, let's see what we've got here. There should be another chest right here, and in that chest, I'll tell you right now, is a gold shield. So if you have not already equipped and found one of these things, the gold shield obviously is the highest defensive shield you have found up to this point, and it is very useful, obviously. It will cut attacks that you receive, physical attacks rather, by a significant amount, so definitely equip that to someone who needs it. And we're just going to zip on ahead to the next chest that comes up, or the potential boss fight, whichever comes first. Alright, so I'll tell you exactly what's going on here. So here's a cutscene, and we have Kefka. Basically, he tells us what the heck he's doing. He's gaining more powers, and he thinks he can extract all the powers from the Espers here. And once he's done with them, he'll go ahead and trash and tarnish them, throw them down in the dumpster here. Kind of going old Star Wars in the trash compactor chute, right? So that's where we're at right now, and basically what we got to do at this point is we got to go down there and try to retrieve those 2 espers that he tarnished and got rid of here. But before we do that, we're just picking up a few chests here. So you saw there was a tent we just picked up, and that's critical because we entered the Magitech Factory without very many of them. So we will put that to good use. Before we go down there after those 2 espers, we are just basically doing a little bit of power leveling here, or any kind of leveling, honestly, because I really thought I was a little bit lower than I should have been. So I walked around for a bit, did a loop or 2, and after I felt confident, I decided to go down in the trash chutes. So I'm still doing a little bit of leveling. Basically, you need to go down on those rollers, find yourself all the way back down. I think we're good. So we're going to go ahead and finish up our little leveling exposition here, I guess you could say. We want to make sure we have all of our characters back at least at decent health. I had decided initially to just let it go until I got down in the dumpster area. But sadly, we got some tough enemies here, and we can't take a chance. So we're going to walk around a little bit, make sure all of our characters are at least alive. Go around one final time, and here we go. Run away, maybe kill a couple enemies, and it's time to go down there and retrieve those 2 espers. So here we are, finally out of the rage speed. We walk on down, and we see there they are. And they're not in too good of a shape right now. We're going to go in this first door on the left. Please, please, please make sure you save. If you have extra tents, go ahead and use a tent. Get yourself back up to full life and health. If you have tinctures or the cure spells, maybe go ahead and bring yourself back up. It's up to you. Just make sure you're in good shape for this next part coming up here, because you are going to have to fight both of them at the same time. So check this out. Alright, the first one we're going to face is Ifrit. He is weak to ice. He's a fire esper, so it makes sense that he's weak to ice. Anybody you have with the ice spell, Celeste, make sure that you use her techniques against him. That will deal significant damage. Obviously, we know that Sabin is a fire expert, and oh, by the way, the Aura Bolt doesn't work on Ifrit either. So, Sabin is pretty much useless when it comes to dealing damage here. So use him as a support hero in a curative spell matter. Maybe put the Dragoon Boots on him, or use the actual Esper abilities. By the way, now that we're seeing that, in case you didn't know, Espers have a unique ability of their own. So if you want, you can choose whatever Esper you have, hit up on the D-pad. So go to Magic, hit up on the D-pad to actually select the Esper, and you can use that unique ability in a fight. So in this case, we just use Lifeguard, which basically casts Regen or Regen on all the heroes here. That was not a bad idea to use, actually, considering that Sabin, as I said, is kind of useless right now. You can't even suplex the guy. Alright, now, you're seeing the Dragoon Boots in action here, not really having much effect with Locke because, you know, those back row attacks aren't very useful. Now, you probably noticed, Ifrit likes to use fire, right? So, a couple of ways you can go about doing this. You can use Ice from Celeste, or you can use her Runic Blade and absorb that spell. I would personally just go ahead and cast a whole bunch of ice here. So right now we're demonstrating the scan technique. In scan, back in the day before the days of the internet, was useful because you could see exactly how much health they had, what level they were, what weaknesses they had. Nowadays you can just go on the internet and figure all that stuff out. So here we have Ifrit, and he's going to take a certain amount of damage, and he's going to do something interesting and unique. He's going to disappear, and what the... Ooh. Now Shiva comes into the fight. That's right, Shiva. She's the complete opposite of Ifrit. She has a weakness to fire. So now, all of a sudden, Sabin becomes useful. So he's going to start using, right now he's using Cure, but he can actually use his fire attacks now. So his Fire Dance, Fire Knuckle, the Aura Bolt is probably useful too. Edgar is so useful with that drill, all-purpose, multi-purpose. So make sure you use what you have when you can. Obviously, don't use Celeste's ice spells on Shiva, that's kind of pointless. Now let's see how much damage the Fire Dance does here against Shiva. Probably a significant amount, I would imagine. And I'd say 800 attack, 800 damage is pretty nice, considering what Shiva has. That's a pretty good chunk of change. Edgar and Sabin combined can take her out pretty quick. Now check this out. Shiva takes a significant amount of damage. She is not defeated, but she disappears and go back to Ifrit. Now, take note. This battle, you can't outright win it, alright? So basically, they take enough damage, or you go a certain time limit, and the match will just magically end. And the thing is, we don't want to outright kill these Espers, because guess what? We're going to bring them onto our party. How do we do that? Well, you gotta fight them. You can eventually guess what's going to happen here, right? Same thing that's going to happen with a lot of Espers in this game. You're going to fight them, you're going to hopefully beat them, and then you're going to take their Magicite powers, and you can then suddenly decide to use them. And I will say, you know, consider what these two espers are known for, fire and ice, right? You can earn the secondary magic spells for both of these two, Shiva and Ifrit. Ifrit is a fire esper, so you can learn, as you're about to see, Fire 1 and Fire 2. Shiva will grant Ice 1 and Ice 2, so I highly recommend equipping the relevant espers to the right people. I like to put Shiva on to Celeste just because it helps her learn Ice 2 faster. Ifrit, you can really put on whoever you want, just whoever you want to designate as the fire person. You can put that on Sabin just because he's my fire guy, or you can really give Ifrit to anybody. It's up to you. Alright, so we're just about done making changes here. Now, check this out. You're going to go in the right-hand door and climb the steps. Before you do that, I strongly recommend that you get your guys back up to regular health power here. Why? Well, you're about to find out. As you go up that staircase that you're about to see, there is a significant, I don't want to say a trash compactor, but a robot that works in a tandem with 2 or 3 others. And they have an attack called Level 5 Doom, which, as you're about to see, here it is, called the Trapper. They will cast Level 5 Doom, and any character that has a multiple level of 5 is instantly killed. Yeah, consider that. That's no joke, and if you don't have Phoenix Downs, you're in big time trouble. And considering that nobody in our party right now has the Life spell, unless you were smart and you power leveled up Bismarck to learn Life, yeah, that's not good. We just lost Locke and Celeste instantly, and nothing we can do about it, right? Yes, we have Phoenix Downs, but if we keep going through it at this rate, we are not going to be in good shape for the upcoming boss fights that we have to endure. So, this is where a critical decision has to be made. You can decide to bring them back and then power level to get to another level for both of those characters, or you can do what I've decided to do here, which honestly, looking back on things, was not a smart move. We've decided to use a tent. Okay, sounds good in hindsight, right? Problem is, as you're about to see, there are complications we run into. Okay, we're back to full health, right? Instantly, we go through the door, there's another Trapper brigade we have to fight. We already know what they like to do. Yeah, that sucks. So we just use the tent and we're right back to square one after going through that door. So, again, don't do what I've done. Make the smart choice and try to level up some of your characters that are on a multiple of 5 level so you don't have to worry about this. I have decided to use my final tent. This is extremely risky because if I lose 2 more characters, I've only got 1 Phoenix down, I can only bring one of them back. Yeah, we are in significant peril at this point. So I'm deciding to make some changes to various relics, and this is not going to be fun. We are hoping and praying that we do not run into any more trappers running up the stairways here, or it will be perilous. Oops. The only saving grace now is that we got a preemptive attack, and we can run away from all 3 of them here. If we didn't get that, it could very easily have been a game over. Oh my goodness. Uh-oh, we got 1 more to go through. Oh, and we don't have the preemptive attack this time. Are we going to escape? Program 18, thankfully that missed. Program 18 basically casts a blue spell on us, and it's nothing that we can't handle here. It's not like it's going to stop you or cause you to lose levels or anything like that, so don't worry about that. Alright, now we get into the actual higher level of the Magitech Research Facility. We have a Gobbler. Nothing too terrible, but you may end up facing multiples of those, so you got a preemptive attack strike. You're low on curative spells, just run away from it. Alright, now, here's a boss coming up. This can be a tricky one if you don't know how to handle it. So, make sure they are all healed to full life. And check this out. Oops, we got 1 more little magic attack battle we have to run into here. Now, we've already seen the Rhinox. We know that that's not a fun thing to deal with. We also have 2 vultures here. Check how hard they're hitting, and they're getting critical attacks on us too. Now we're going to waste more magic to get our party back to full health before fighting this boss here. We're going to go ahead and do that. And then we are finally going to take this little baddie on. This thing right here is known as Number 24. Nice little name, right? Yeah, don't bother with me. Don't ask me. I didn't name these things. So Number 24 is a little bit stronger than most of the bosses we're used to fighting right now. The significant thing about number 24 is that it will cast a shifting barrier which will affect what types of magical spells can do elemental damage to it. Up front, it doesn't really matter, so use your most powerful stuff. Eventually, he is going to cast the wall change, which will basically prevent you from doing any kind of fire damage. So yeah, take advantage of it now before that happens. Now you notice that right here, number 24 casted a spell called Overflow onto Celeste, which basically casts the Confuse or Muddled spell on her. Ordinarily, you could use various items to cure that, like a remedy. Here, unfortunately, yeah, it didn't work, so that's not a good thing. And ooh, Celeste just hit him with a Confuse spell with her Confused attack. And not only hit him once, but twice because of the Firebrand attack sword that she has. Now check this out. We changed the barrier. That fire does absolutely nothing. So Sabin has pretty much reduced the curative status at this point, which is good because he actually has the cure spell. We're going to go ahead and try to steal. There's really nothing that we can steal at this point. Well, we tried at least. And ooh, that's not good. Sabin just went down, and now Magnitude 8. Remember that spell we told you we tried to avoid? Yeah, now you can see why. It causes significant ground damage. So thankfully, Edgar still has the drill, or we'd be in big time trouble. Celeste does have the ability to use Runic, but it really doesn't matter at this point, because a cave-in ain't Runic. Oh my goodness. Block is trying the Dragoon Boot attack. Thank the Lord, Edgar can still drill for significant damage here. Celeste is going to cure. The wrong person, because she's under the Confused status. Alright, wall change. If we had Sabin alive at this point, that would be great. To be fair, we do have a Phoenix down we can use, but we only have one. We are in trouble. We have one person down. Celeste is basically about to go down. Oh, thankfully she cast Runic, or it would have been significantly awful. Is this enough to do it? Oh, we pulled it off. We could have very easily had a game over there, folks. That was ridiculously awful. Bad planning, to be sure, but you know what? It makes more entertaining videos. Alright, we got the Blizzard right there. So the Blizzard is basically a sword very similar to Firebrand or the Thunderbolt, Thunderblade, whatever you want to call it. Same attack power, except that it also deals ice elemental damage. So very useful to use against fire heroes, or fire fiends I should say. Alright, now here we have a very long cutscene which we're going to skip through, and basically what's happening is all of these espers in the test tubes have decided to give their lives away, and we've just collected 6 pieces of Magicite. 6, count them, 6 pieces of Magicite. Some of those Magicites have very, very powerful and significant spells. One of them is named Bismarck, as I may have mentioned a little bit earlier, and that has the ability to grant life. And the life spell is huge, as you're going to see, because no one at this point knows the life spell. Alright, if you were paying attention to that story, basically they accused Celeste up front of treachery. Celeste proved that she is not a traitor. And we're going to have to see what happens a little bit later as we come out of this cutscene here. They're going down this video to escape Kefka and get out of the Magitech Factory. But we're going to save the escape of the factory for the next part in part 10 because we're out of time right now. Let me tell you, it gets even better. You thought this was strange. See you in the next part, folks. Hope you enjoy it.